Today we will discuss about Pareto Optimality. Pareto Optimality is named after the economist Vilfredo Pareto. An economy is in a Pareto optimal state or a Pareto optimal situation where no further changes in the economy can make one person better off without at the same time making another worse off. A Pareto improvement is a change to a different allocation that makes at least one individual or preference criterion better off without making any other individual or preference criterion worse off, given a certain initial allocation of goods among a set of individuals. An allocation is defined as Pareto efficient or Pareto optimal when no further Pareto improvements can be made, in which case we are assumed to have reached Pareto optimality. Now there are two main conditions of Pareto optimality. They are firstly efficiency in exchange and secondly efficiency in production. Now the first condition for Pareto optimality, that is efficiency in exchange, for that required condition is that marginal rate of substitution between any two products must be same for every individual who consumes both. The second condition, that is efficiency in production, for that there are three allocation rules for demonstrating efficiency in production under a perfectly competitive situation. Rule 1 relates to the optimal allocation of the factors. It requires that the marginal rate of technical substitution between two factors must be the same for any pair of firms using these factors to produce the same product. Rule 2 states that marginal rate of transformation between any factor and any product must be same for any pair of firms using the factor and producing the product. It means that the marginal productivity of any factor producing a particular product must be the same for all firms. Rule 3 for efficiency in production requires that marginal rate of transformation between any two products must be same for any two firms that produce both the products. Now, let us try to graphically represent the situation of Pareto optimality. According to Pareto optimality, we have already mentioned that a distribution of resources among individuals is efficient as long as no one can be made better off without someone else being made worse off. If there are fixed quantities of two goods X and Y to be allocated between two individuals A and B, we can represent a two-good space as a rectangle, which is called Edgeworth box diagram. In this box diagram, we plot A's indifference curves moving to northeast from his origin at the lower left. And we can also plot B's indifference curves moving to southwest from his origin at the upper right. We assume that B gets the units of X and Y that A does not get. If A and B can exchange X and Y freely, they will exchange these two goods to some point along the contract curve. Now what is contract curve? Contract curve is the set of all points where the indifference curves of these two individuals A and B are tangent with each other and their marginal rate of substitutions between X and Y are equal. That means the slopes of these two indifference curves of these two individuals will be equal. All the locus of all those tangency points will be called the contract curve, and individuals will exchange the goods X and Y on this contract curve. let us see what is the graphical representation. Here in the southwest, red A point means the origin of individual A, and in the southwest, in the northeast, upper right point, blue point B represents the origin of individual B. Now U1A, U2A, U3A are the indifference curves of individual A for different consumption, different combinations of consumption of X and Y. Let us suppose so therefore, on the other hand, the blue indifference curves, that is UB1, UB2, UB3, UB4, these curves, these indifference curves are the indifference curves of consumer B, showing different combinations of commodity X and Y of consumed by consumer B. So locus of the tangency points between the red indifference curves and the blue indifference curves is shown as the green line, which is the contract curve, and along this contract curve all the points are Pareto optimal allocations of goods X and Y between consumer A and consumer B. Here we should note that the Pareto efficiency criterion does not address the issues of equity or fairness in the a priori distribution of goods and services. What do we mean by a priori distribution of goods and services? That means before the process of exchange starts, in the initial situation of distribution is called a priori distribution of goods and services, goods or resources. Now if initially A gets everything and B gets nothing, then that will also be considered to be Pareto efficient, because if we try to increase the quantities consumed for B, in that situation A will be worse off, because if in the initial situation is that A is getting everything and B is getting nothing, but still the situation is equilibrium situation of the economy. So therefore if we increase any amount of consumption for B, we actually have to reduce some amount of consumption of A, so that will violate the condition of Pareto optimality. So the initial allocation where A gets everything and B gets nothing will be considered as Pareto efficient. But this is not good from the point of view of equity, because equity is not assured in this situation. Now, a logical extension of the Pareto efficiency concept is that any redistribution of resources among individuals is efficient only if the gainers from the redistribution could fully compensate the losers and still be better off. That means no one will be loser. If I take away some consumption from B from another person, then the another person should be compensated by me, and ultimately I will also be better off. If such a situation can be assured, then that will be considered a logical extension of the Pareto efficiency concept.